Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thanks a lot for being with us here tonight. We're here for this online workshop on migrant worker rights and COVID-19. So I'm sure others will continue to come in, and thanks. It's really great to have all of you joining in tonight. I'm sure you have lots of questions. So yes, just as a little reminder, feel free to send us your questions throughout the presentation. You can send them to us by either sending a message or a voice memo to WhatsApp at 902-329-9595. And if you and I are in contact, it's the same number. So yeah, I'm seeing a few more people come in, and I'll repeat this later on as well, because we definitely want to have lots of time for answering your questions. So in terms of an introduction, my name is Stacy Gomez. I'm a member of Known as Legal Halifax and also part of our migrant workers program, and also a member of our migrant worker rights working group. So I'm going to pass it on to Gennaro to briefly introduce yourself, and then we'll pass it to Jessica.
Hi, everyone. Good evening, good night. My name is Donardo Jones. I'm a lawyer and a law professor. I'm out here in Ontario. I'm going to be discussing migrant workers' rights tonight during the COVID-19 pandemic, and happy to be here. And as Stacy said, if you have any questions after the presentation, folks will be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Jess, would you like to present yourself?
Hi. Hi to you all. Good evening. I'm from Quakers and also part of the migrant workers group, and we may have met at some point in the Valley or other places throughout Nova Scotia. So welcome to everyone, and looking forward to this evening.
Thanks, Jess. And it's really great to have both of you here tonight. So we will soon pass it over to Donardo. But first, I know a few other people have joined us since I announced this, so I'll just repeat it again. Feel free to send your questions to us by WhatsApp at 902-329-9595. And we're going to have a question and answer period after the presentation. Yes, feel free to send it as a text or an audio clip. Or also feel free to call in if you directly, want to chat with us. That's something we haven't done before, but would love to do. So yes, look forward to hearing from you all. So with that, we're going to pass it over to Gennaro.
Thank you. We're going to share the screen. Okay, there you go. Jess, can you? Okay, excellent. Right. So again, as I said, good night, everyone, and thank you for coming. So as I said, tonight we're going to talk about your rights as a migrant worker and the COVID-19, and what kind of responsibilities your boss and your supervisor have with what kind of rights you have and what kind of responsibilities you also have during this pandemic. Now, Jess, can you move on to the next slide, please? Right, so there's a few things that we're going to talk about tonight, but the first thing is what information your boss give you, my apologies, what information should your boss give you about COVID-19 when you land in Nova Scotia and have to go in isolation, right? So one of the things that you have to understand is that when you reach Nova Scotia, your employer have to provide you with information and provide you with the necessary training, okay, to make sure that your safety is protected, right? So things along the lines of hygiene, social distancing, also health monitoring and reporting illnesses, right? So them have to do regular reminder sessions, okay? For get updated information, for make sure say you have all of the necessary information for protect yourself from getting sick. So any training them provide are for being both Canada official language, right? English and French if people speak French, or any language that's best suited for you. Okay, so that's the first thing. Your boss have to provide you with information about COVID-19 and what requirements you may have, okay, in order to meet whatever public health regulation is out there in Nova Scotia. Okay, but your boss have to provide you with that information there. Next slide, Jess. Okay, so pay during the quarantine period. So as you understand that when you land, you have to go into quarantine for a period of time. Okay, so your employer cannot deny assistance to you for buy food, buy medicine, and other kind of supplies while you're in quarantine. So the employer have to provide you with pay during the quarantine period for ensure that the money for buy them things, the food and medicine and so on. Employer can withhold, certain deductions, right? Certain taxes and so on for employment insurance, housing, transportation, and so on, right? But while you're in the quarantine period, the 14-day period, the employer have to make sure that you get whatever the minimum wage payment you're supposed to get. So my understanding is that for the 14-day period that you're quarantined is in addition to the minimum 240 hours of pay that's specified in your contract. Okay, so all in all, at the end of the season, you're supposed to get paid for 300 hours. Okay, so as the first thing we'll talk about, what information the boss have to provide you with, and now we'll talk about what kind of payment you get during the quarantine period for ensure that you have enough money for purchase the things that you need while you're upon quarantine. Next slide. So your boss must follow the Nova Scotian rules concerning COVID-19. Okay, so you being a migrant worker is no different from other people within the country. Everybody have to follow the rules around COVID-19. So it's important that you know the rules and that your employers know the rule. The employer have to inform you about the rules about COVID-19 and them have to stick to them rules there. The employer have to follow public health and social distancing protocols. And if they're not doing this is something you can report. Okay. So after you isolate for the 14-day period, employer have to make sure that all of the protocols are in place, okay, in terms of living accommodation and work activities for ensure that you're safe while you work and within the places that you rest, you sleep, where you live, you cook your food and so on, right? So, social distancing, physical distancing requirement, how much people can be in a one room, making sure that people are 2 meters or 6 feet apart, certain barriers we have to set up, good hand washing, kind of hygiene practices, and so on, right? I make sure there's cleaning routines so people can make sure surfaces are properly disinfected and, you understand, things of that nature. But one of the most important question is what happens if somebody forgets sick with COVID, right? So if one of the workers then becomes sick, okay, the employer have to arrange for the worker to be isolated from all others and make sure a COVID-19 test is taken, okay, and complete a self-assessment. And if them can't do it, them have to call 811. Okay. Now, if the worker show any signs at any time, okay, the regulation required the boss to provide immediate accommodation to allow the worker to isolate himself. So accommodation have to include a private bedroom and a private bathroom. Okay. So the employer have to have a plan for safely transport a sick employee to a testing center to get a COVID test. So this include the sick employee have to wear a medical mask, okay, and sitting in a row of seats furthest from the driver. The driver must also wear a medical mask as well. If the worker is diagnosed with COVID-19, a plan have to put in place to isolate the worker. The employer must follow the direction from public health. Next slide, please. Now, if you find that the boss not do what I'm supposed to do, okay, and you want to complain and you say, well, you know, if you complain, it may cause issues or whatever, and you feel as if you're being treated badly, you can call the number where it's on the screen, okay? Now, along with the number on the screen, you can also contact Stacy. Okay, if you don't feel comfortable contacting this number, you can contact Stacy. All right, if you feel as if the boss will treat you poorly. Okay, next slide, please. Now, another important thing, if you feel as if your boss will control your every move. So if a worker movement get limited, right? So if the boss impose certain restriction upon how you can move about, that's a problem. All right. So things like if the boss physically confine you to a, you know, to a housing or a work site without any kind of authority, or if the boss tell you say you can't leave the house or leave the work location and so on, and if you leave, you know, you may lose your job or something, that's a problem, because the temporary foreign worker program does not provide employers with a right to limit your free movement, right? Which means that you can leave the work site, all right? You can move about without unreasonable limitations being placed on your movement, okay? So that's something, again, that if you feel as if something like that's happening or something like that is happening, contact Stacy, okay? She'll be able to help you. Next slide. So some rules around COVID-19, recent rules. So right now, indoor social gathering is limited to around 10 people, okay? So 10 people within a household, all right? Outdoor social gathering is a limit now up to 25 people, right? That means 25 people who don't have a social distance or wear masks. Same thing with 10 people within a household, don't have a social distance, don't have to wear masks. Anything over that, you have to ensure that there's social distancing and there's masks, right? Matter of fact, you can't gather with more than that limit amount of people, okay? Next slide. So what can you do if your boss does the following things? For example, these are things that your boss can do. Your boss cannot force you for work during the initial 14-day quarantine, right? So it can't force you. The boss have to pay you during that period, during a 14-day day, right? The boss also cannot interfere with the quarantine requirements, so it can't prevent you from buying your groceries and so on. The boss also cannot put workers together who have COVID symptoms or who in a quarantine without workers who are not in quarantine. If somebody showing signs of illness, COVID, the boss have to provide you with a private bedroom and the bathroom. The boss can't prevent you from following the government instructions, public health instructions. Boss can't prevent you from doing that. Boss cannot prevent you or restrict you from buying, as I say, buying your groceries. So, going to your doctor, accessing services, and enjoying your free time when you're not in quarantine or in isolation. And as I say, if you feel as if the boss not do them thing there, you can call the number where we show you before, or just contact Stacey or contact the Nova Scotia Labor Standards, right? If you feel as if the boss not do what he's supposed to do. Next slide. So if you feel as if the boss, okay, doing certain things that's not right, not legal, okay, and you want to make a complaint, all right, you can complain about the boss not doing what them supposed to do with COVID or other things that them, what them do that they're not allowed to do, okay? Again, if you have any questions about making a complaint about what you feel as if the boss not doing, whether it involve how them deal with the COVID thing, whether it involve your pay or other benefits, or you feel as if the boss are intimidate you or the boss I try push you out, call Stacey. She can help you. Okay. Next slide. Okay. So if you feel as if you suffer mistreatment from the boss or another worker, okay, since 2019, you can leave that work there and apply for an open work permit, right? So this open work permit means that you can leave our work there and look at another job, all right? So if you feel as if the boy now work out right now with which part, but the boss say I'm not dealing with me right, it might expose me to sickness, it might, it might step on my rights, it not dealing with me good. Right? If you can prove that, so if you have evidence for proof, say you not get treated right, you can apply for an open work permit. Again, if you need any help with that, you can reach out to Stacey and she can help you sort out the paperwork, right? But you need evidence, right? You need to show something so the boss not either, right? Whether a letter, text message, even if it's a phone call where you record or something like that, you need something, or you need a witness, somebody where they're there to say the bad treatment. And you can make an application for one of them open work permit. And once you get that, you can go look at another work. Next slide. Okay. Okay, so this program, the paid sick leave program. So if you have a good boss, this is something where you can apply for if you become sick with COVID. Obviously, we don't want nobody to become sick, but them things that can happen. So if you get sick and you have a good boss, you can apply for the paid sick leave program, right? So in terms of the rules around getting the paid sick leave, hold on one second. You know what? If you have any questions about the paid sick leave program, right, I'm going to ask that when we finish, you can ask Stacey or Jessica, or if you want to know more about it, you can contact Stacey after here and she can explain more about it to you. Okay, but just for now, need you to understand, say, if you do become sick with COVID, that this is something that you can apply for if you have a good boss and the boss willing to cooperate and support you in applying for the program. Next slide. Okay, so this insurance, it's now Cohen Insurance. If you find yourself in one of the following situation, you may be eligible for the Cohen Insurance COVID-19 income replacement, right? So if you test positive for COVID-19, okay, you may be eligible for this. Again, this is one of those programs where, right, as I said, we don't want nobody for sick, but if you do sick, this is one of the programs them that you can also apply for. And as I said, if you find yourself in that situation and you need to apply, you can always reach out to Stacey. They are happy to help you, walk you through the process and help you with applying. Okay. So we talked about the paid sick leave as one program where you can apply for if you're sick and can't work. And this is the other one, the Cohen Insurance. And as I say, if you have any question about it, you can always send it along to Stacey and she'll be happy to help you out. Next slide. Most of you are probably familiar with EI, because you have to pay into it, right? So what happens if you get sick with COVID when you're not working? So until September 25th of this year, 2021, you only need for sure, say you work 120 hours in the past year to get sick benefits under the insurance, employment insurance, EI. Okay, so once you apply, you should hear back within a month. And you should be able to receive around 5 bills a week time before them take out tax, right? And apply as soon as you're sick and you can't work, all right? You can receive up to around 55% of your salary. So up to around $595 per week, and it lasts for 15 weeks. Again, if you have any question about this, contact Stacey. I'm happy to help you to fill out any forms where you need to fill out or explain it more in detail. Okay, so far we talk about paid sick leave, we talk about Cohen Insurance, and now we talk about EI. And this is only if you get sick with COVID, right? Next slide. So this is another benefit as well. This is called Canada Recovery Sickness Benefit, right? So this pay 5 bills a week up to a maximum of 4 weeks for people who can't work for at least 50% of the week because them have COVID, or them are isolated for reasons related to COVID, right? So, or have any kind of underlying conditions. So if you're sick with diabetes or one of them conditions where if you get COVID, it can really make you sick, you can apply for the Canada Recovery Sickness Benefit, right? Again, if you have any questions about that or whether or not you would be eligible if you apply for a program like this, reach out to Stacey. Them happy to help you with it, right? So far, I'm talk about in terms of if you get sick and to be able to support yourself. We talk about the paid sick leave, talk about the Cohen Insurance, talk about EI, and just now the Canada Recovery Sickness Benefit. Okay, next slide. All right, now this is a big topic, right? COVID vaccination. As Jamaicans, we understand, say a lot of people hesitant to take the vaccine, right? Nobody can force you to take it. You have to take it if you feel as if there's something where you want to do, right? But just so you understand, say in Canada, the vaccine free, and getting the vaccine is voluntary. Nobody can force you to do it, right? So as of July 5th of this year, fully vaccinated travelers, meaning people who get the 2 injection them, can enter Canada and will not have to go through the quarantine period. Okay, the full quarantine period. So fully vaccinated travelers arriving by airplane will not be required to stay in a government licensed hotel. All right, so that's one of the benefits of getting the vaccination and say you don't have to go through the quarantine. But to be considered fully vaccinated, you have to receive 2 shots of a certain kind of vaccine or a combination of the approved vaccine then, right? So the government of Canada have vaccine where them consider to be the vaccine where them, them consider to be the most effective. So the vaccine where the government of Canada recognize now are the Pfizer one, Moderna, AstraZeneca, and COVID Shield, and the Johnson & Johnson, right? So if you receive your vaccination in any country, you have to provide some kind of document for sure them say your vaccination up to date, okay? And your vaccination, the type of vaccine where you get, right? So it have to be either Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, or COVID Shield, or Johnson & Johnson. Okay, so again, if you have any questions about that, right, about vaccination and about what rules Canadian government have around vaccination, again, you can reach out to Stacey them and them can talk you through it. But as I say, nobody can force if you get the vaccine. It's voluntary. You have to do it on your own if you feel as if that's something you want to do for yourself, right? And it's free in Canada if you want it. Next slide. So yeah, okay. So if you want to get vaccinated and your employer not support that, or you want to get vaccinated, and you want somebody to support you to get the vaccination, you can always reach out to Stacey them. And I'm happy for help you, happy for bring you, go get yourself vaccinated. So if you want to do it, you don't have to worry about the employer not supporting you. The employer not have to bring you, the employer not have to tell you which part of the clinic they are or whatever. You just contact Stacey them and they will help you with it. Okay. I don't know if there's a next slide. I think that's it. So thank you all for listening. And as I'm say, if you have any questions, now would be the time for unmute yourself, ask any questions we may have, and Stacey and Jessica, they'll be happy to answer all of your questions. Okay. So thank you again for listening. All right.
Thanks a lot, Genardo. That was really great. And as you were speaking, we have been seeing more and more people connect, which is really great. So welcome everyone who is just joining us. And yes, we just had a presentation from Genardo. And if you have any questions about anything that was raised or other questions related to migrant worker rights and COVID-19, feel free to send us a message on WhatsApp. And our number is 902-329-9595, the number here on the screen. And you can send us a voice memo or you can send us a message and we will read it out. And yeah, we're encouraging people to send us messages on WhatsApp. We won't share your name unless you want us to. So yeah, I know sometimes it can be hard to ask questions. So yes, you can feel free to ask questions anonymously if you would like to. And yeah, we are on standby for any questions that you might have. And yes, around, I guess I'll just chat a little, I'll chat with you guys a bit as we're waiting for the questions to come in. So yeah, just as Genardo mentioned, we are supporting people. We support people's right to get the vaccine, or to, if they decide not that it's not for them, we also really, it's everyone's choice. And we are supporting people to book their vaccines, because there's still some limitations. You have to call a number, and if you don't have like a phone service, it can be challenging. And also, you might, want some support with that. So we're here to support with that. We've helped a number of migrant workers to book their vaccines already. Feel free to reach out in case that's something that you need support with, or if you have friends that would also like support with that. And let's see, I heard my WhatsApp, so we'll see if there's a question. Okay. I'm just checking. Maybe as I listen to this, I can pass it to you, Jess, if you want to share anything.
Sure. I guess just again, if there are any questions about anything to do with COVID, or about the open work permit, or about any of the paid sick leave programs, you can always just get a hold of Stacy, and she has a group of people that are helping. And she can also, she might help you, or she might reach out and get someone else to help you. So that's a good thing, just to know that you're not alone out there. There are people here to help if you have any questions or concerns. Tonight we're talking about COVID, but there's also other ways or other things that you might need help with, and don't hesitate to reach out.
Thanks, Jess. So we have a question. I'm going to play it. So I'll just be sure that this is on high here. Okay.
I have a question. What if we get one shot of the vaccine here, and we're going to go home before it is time for us to get the other shot? What's going to happen? We're going to get the other shot in our country, or what? Will we have to show them that we got one shot here? That's my question.
Mm-hmm. And maybe Denardo, I don't know if you want to help out with this, but with that, as long as you, even if, let's say you get one shot here of Pfizer, and you get another shot in your country of one of the vaccines that Canada supports, that's okay. You don't have to get them both here, but you have to get either Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, or the Covishield, the new one that I hadn't heard of before. These, and you can also mix them. In Canada, they're allowing people to mix them as well. So if you can only get AstraZeneca in your country, you can mix it with Pfizer or Moderna. So if you get a Pfizer or Moderna here, you can get the AstraZeneca there. Just make sure that you have receipts that you have gotten both.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's important. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Jess. And also just to say, we are advocating for migrant workers who would like to get both of the vaccine here, to be able to access both doses. So that's something that, yes, that we think, for example, we know that vaccine access may be limited in your home country. And so it would be unfair for you really not to have access to it here, especially because there has been a delay on the part of the Nova Scotia government for vaccinations with migrant workers. And so we are advocating to the government to improve that. And also just to say, when you get your first vaccine here, what has happened when I've gone with people to get their vaccine is that they'll have a sheet of paper and they'll fill it out and confirming that you got the vaccine. It's always, when I help people to book it, I usually call in advance to say, this is something that migrant workers are saying that they would like, because the workers I've talked to have said it would be helpful to have some proof that we did have the vaccine. So just to share with you that. And I know that the government is rolling out a new kind of process around like proof around the vaccine. So yeah, that's something that's pretty new. But yeah, if you connect with us, yeah, we're happy to support on that. And I see another question here. How long after the first dose should we get the second? I'm happy to start us off, and I'm sure probably others will have more updated information than myself. But originally, they were saying that your second dose would be 105 days after your first dose, but now they've moved it up. So, for example, I got my vaccine in May, and originally I was scheduled to get the second one in, let's see, June, July, August, September. But now it's been booked for tomorrow. So it has moved up. And really, my understanding is like when I did my vaccination, when I booked it, they were saying, oh, if you got your vaccine by this date, you can call and reschedule it so that it's earlier. So yeah, those are my thoughts on it. Jess?
Yeah, and right now, Nova Scotia is saying 28 days between. This is just really hot, brand new, come out. Now you can get your vaccination. You can wait just 28 days between and get it. So if you need help scheduling your second vaccination, reach out to Stacy, and also reach out to Stacy anyway, because that helps us to schedule, if you want help scheduling your vaccine, because that helps us to say to the government, look, that we have been in contact with many migrant workers who want their vaccine and they aren't able to get it, or it's difficult. So you need to do better, right? And try to pressure the government to have a better program in place.
Thanks a lot, Jess. And as we're waiting for more questions, feel free to send us your questions through WhatsApp, or if you feel comfortable to post them on social media, you can do that as well.
And Donardo, if you have anything to add, please do. Sorry. Yeah.
I got another one. I got another question. Upon receiving the second shot, as a migrant worker, are we going to get something to show that we are fully vaccinated when we return home?
Mm-hmm. Maybe you can speak to that, Stacey. Yeah.
Yes, sounds good. So, yes, in terms of when you get your first vaccine, you can ask for a paper that says that you received the vaccine. And in terms of the second dose, I would expect that it would be similar. And so, yeah, that's all I can share about that. I haven't heard of, something kind of specific that would say that you are fully vaccinated. I think it would probably be the same or similar paper. Mm-hmm. And I see that we have another vaccine related question. Yeah, so that's great. We're happy to answer questions around the vaccine. And also, if you have questions about other things related to your rights during COVID-19 as well. So the question is, can we choose which brand we would like to take? So yes, in short, yes. You can choose. The way that it is kind of set up is that there's the availabilities, and each of the time slots has like the name of the vaccine, and you can make a decision based on that. But I will say, from my perspective, and my understanding is that, okay, here in Nova Scotia, there's only 2 vaccines being offered currently. That's the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine. They're both very similar in the technology that they use. And so, yes, they're very also comparable in terms of how effective they are. And so what I've heard, and I'll pass it on to others to share their thoughts as well, Yes, is that they're very similar. But yes, you do have when you get the vaccine, they should tell you which vaccine you're getting. And I know sometimes that doesn't happen, so you can ask. And also, yes, you can choose which vaccine brand you would like to take. Though what I have heard health professionals say is that the best vaccine is the first vaccine that you can get access to. So, for example, in my case, originally I was like, I'm gonna get the Pfizer vaccine, and I was like pretty set on it. But then I saw what was available, and it was the Moderna vaccine that was first available. So then that's the one that I ended up going with. So yeah, that's just my experience. Yeah, so I'll share it with others. Jess, what are your thoughts, or Donardo?
Yeah, I think so too. I ended up getting the AstraZeneca, and now I'm scheduled for a different one. I think it's the Pfizer. But I got the AstraZeneca too, just because they said to get the one that's first. I don't know. Do you have an opinion on that, Donardo?
The Canadian has a lot of information about the efficacy and the safety of whatever vaccine you choose, right? So all that information is there. So if you have any questions about where to find it, in case you have any concerns about a particular brand, by all means, reach out and, ask Stacy or Jessica. Okay, but in terms of the safety profile, it seems as if, other than AstraZeneca, which I don't think they're offering, at least not in Ontario, I don't think they're offering it in Nova Scotia. Aside from that particular brand, I think all of the other brand, the safety profile is pretty much the same. So it's really up to you in terms of a consumer for kind of educate yourself around what vaccine brand you feel, more comfortable with. But all the information is there online for you to make that decision, right? So I haven't taken a vaccine yet. I booked an appointment for today, but I cancel it to be here with you folks tonight. So I'm gonna rebook. But yeah, but when I booked it, it was for the Pfizer one, because as Stacy said, they do list what brand vaccine is available at a particular location. So yeah.
Thank you. And I'll also mention that we actually had a conversation with a medical professional, Dr. Haas. He is an infectious disease specialist, now retired, and also Jamaican. And he shared, actually, I think it was last week. Yeah, a week ago today. So if you would like to watch that presentation, feel free to send me a message, and we can post it in YouTube and Facebook too, so that you can have access to that. And it's really, great to hear his perspective around some of the concerns that have been raised, like some of the questions that people have about the vaccine, both vaccines. And I'm seeing we have another question here. Can I get COVID if I take the first dose? If yet, is it still required for me to do the next dose same way? So my understanding is that the vaccine does not prevent you from getting COVID-19, but when you compare having the vaccine and not having the vaccine, you would get less. If you got COVID-19, you would get less sick if you have the vaccine. That's my understanding. I, in terms of the first part of that question, that's how I understand that. And if yes, is it still required for me to do the next dose same way? In terms of, if I understand the question correctly, is it around, do you have to get the same vaccine, like type of vaccine or brand of vaccine?
Stacy, sorry. What she means is she wants to know if if you get the first dose and you get COVID, will you still need to do a second dose? Right. So if you get, so if you've already got one shot and you still end up with COVID, are you still required, or what's the efficacy of getting the second dose if you get sick after having the first dose? So that's the question that she's asking.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Jess, do you have thoughts on this question?
I think maybe, yes, I think COVID, just because you have COVID, it doesn't mean that the COVID is going to stop you from getting it again. So yes, you should also get the second dose, as far as I know. That's what I feel. Yeah.
Thanks, Jess. I see we have another question here. Does someone have the immediate answer? If not, I can look it up. The question is, do we know about about utility? Like, what's the rate of effectiveness? I understand is the question for the vaccines.
The Pfizer is 91.3% effective, and the Moderna is 94.1% effective. And I'm just looking for the Johnson and Johnson.
And maybe while you do that, I'll also say it's more effective when you have the 2 doses as opposed to just having your first dose. Yeah. So that's why it's recommended to get both doses.
And Johnson was 66% effective.
Thanks, Jess. And just to recap, here in Nova Scotia, it's the Pfizer and the Moderna that are available. And they both use the same or similar technology. We have a few other questions, actually. Okay. Which of the 2 is best? Which of the 2 vaccines is best? So, yeah, I mean, from my perspective, they're both, and what I understand based on what Dr. Haas shared is that they're both very similar. So I don't have a response in terms of which is best. Sometimes I hear things about kind of one versus the other in terms of kind of the side effects, but it ultimately depends on your own body, how you'll react to the vaccine. So anyways, I'll pass it on to others who may have, other thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think you've said it, Stace, unless you have another opinion, Bernardo.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. So another question. Okay, what if the one you want is not there and you would like to wait? So yeah, my immediate response is, yeah, that's definitely your decision if you would like to do that. I would just say, for example, I was looking at booking someone's vaccines yesterday, and I noticed that there's right now a lot of one type of the vaccine. Maybe we have like more of a supply of that vaccine, and that's why it's the one that's kind of currently mostly available. So yeah, I think like, I don't know, when other shipments will come in, and yeah, it's definitely your decision, and you're right if you do want to wait. But yeah, it's also once you have the vaccine, it's helpful in terms of that you wouldn't get as sick if you were to be exposed to COVID-19. So yeah, I guess you kind of have to make your decision around that. Any other thoughts on this question? Okay, we have another question. 2 other questions, actually. Okay, first question: can we travel next year without taking the vaccine?
So, coming from Jamaica next year, right now there's nothing saying that you can't do that. Practically, we know that this year the government paid for people to be in, at least in Nova Scotia, in separate hotel rooms for quarantine, which was the safest way to do that. And the employers paid workers 30 hours 30 hours a week for 2 weeks. So yeah, right now there's nothing saying that you have to have the vaccine, but if you think about it, it might be something that either Canada or the employers are going to try to put in place for next year, because a lot of employers are not going to want to pay people to be for 60 hours to be in quarantine.
Thanks, Jess. Mm-hmm. And I do, yes, sometimes tell people, like, I have heard the Canadian government talking about vaccine passports. Nothing to my knowledge is confirmed so far, but if so, yes, then travel, might be limited in terms of if you have the vaccine. Yes?
And
Jess?
also now, people who have the double vaccine, who have been vaccinated fully, can come to Canada and not isolate. That's already happening now and going to be starting in July. And people that don't have it do have to isolate. That's the only real rule there is at this time around it.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Jess. And we have another question also related to the vaccine. Whenever we get our second dose of vaccination and we cannot go to work due to the fact that we have side effects, should our employer pay us for the days we are home?
So this, in a way, and Denardi, you can chime in if you would, if you want to. If you have an employer or a boss that you can talk to, there is something that if you're getting the vaccination, or if you're in isolation waiting for a test to see if you have COVID, or if you've had the test and you're waiting for the results, or if you have got COVID and can't go to work, there's Nova Scotia's gives 4 days for you to do those things, like get the vaccination, take time off work for the vaccination, or wait for your test to see if you have COVID, those things. And if your employer can pay you, and then your employer can get reimbursed by the government. So, but in order to do that, you have to have an employer who's willing to pay you while that's happening and then get reimbursed. So it's something that if you have a good, someone you can talk to who's a boss, you might be able to get them to talk about that. If you are, the question was if you do become sick as well. Was it, Stace, or just for, can you repeat the question?
Yes, happy to repeat the question.
Yeah.
So whenever we get our second dose of vaccination and we cannot go work due to the fact that we have side effects, should our employer pay us for the days we are home?
Yeah. So if you have, let's say you get really, really sick for a few days, if you have 120 hours, you can apply for sick benefits. EI that you won't get that money right away, but you will get it eventually for that time, and that's something that you could get a hold of Stacy to. That's something that you could get a hold of Stacy to help you apply with.
Yeah. Thanks, Jessica. And we have a few more questions. Thanks, everyone. It's really great hearing your questions. Feel free to keep sending us your questions. So the question, follow-up question to a previous question. But they asked COVID-related questions before I received my first shot. So is it that they wouldn't give me the shot if I had COVID-like symptoms? I'm happy to answer that. I'll take a first answering. So my understanding is that you should be at your optimal level of health when you're getting the vaccine. And so, yes, if you have symptoms of COVID-19, then you wouldn't be at your optimal level of health. So that's yeah. In short, those are my thoughts around that. But yeah, what do others opine?
I think that's a good question, and I'm not sure of the answer. I know they ask all of us that question, and I'm not sure what happens. I haven't had that experience, and don't really know what happens when you, if you put yes to that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any knowledge of that, Donardo, or experience?
Uh, no, I would assume that if your immune system is down, then I can't imagine that the vaccine would be effective in that in that kind of a kind of environment. I'm assuming that's the science behind it, but I'm wondering though, Stacy, is there a way that we could get Dr. Haas, just maybe back for folks that are on the call right now, and have him answer some of these questions, because some of these questions, I think coming from a doctor, an infectious disease specialist, would because these are all important questions, right? Really, really important questions. But again, I don't know Dr. Haas's availability and so on, or if we could send him the questions that folks have asked, and then perhaps he can answer them, and we can send it back out to folks, and
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think that's a really great idea. And Dr. Haas did say that he is available to answer questions. So yes, I think that, yeah, definitely Dr. Haas would be the best person to answer these questions. So yeah, I would say for the people who sent me a question by WhatsApp, we can definitely follow up on WhatsApp. On YouTube, it's not really possible for us to kind of follow up, but there's not really a way for us to kind of see people's contact information. So yes, if you did ask a question and you would like us to ask Dr. Haas, please send me a message on WhatsApp at 902-329-9595 if you post it on social media, on YouTube or Facebook, and then we can get back to you with his response. And okay, additional question. So the pay after quarantine is a sure thing? Question mark?
The pay after quarantine, or
Yes.
is a sure thing? Maybe you could ask a little more. I'm not sure if you mean the pay in quarantine. You should be getting 30 hours for pay for 30 hours for the first week and 30 hours for the second week. And then, for the season, if you work the season, the minimum you're supposed to get is 240 hours. But for this season, you should be getting the 240 hours plus the quarantine hours, which is 60. So if you're working, the minimum hours that you should get is for 300 for the season, the minimum. I'm not sure if that answers your question, or if you have another follow-up question, or perhaps I didn't answer your question. So just let us know.
They said that you did answer the question.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Jess. Great. Okay. Great. Oh, we have another question here. What are the proof that what are the proof that is there to tell whether the vaccine is safe? And is there a code for this vaccine?
You mean, how do you know? Is the question, how do you know whether you're really getting the vaccine, or it might be something false that's not the vaccine? I think that's the question. And this might be a good one for Dr. Haas.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If you have a chance to write that to Stacy on WhatsApp, that's a really good question.
Yes. Yes. Thanks for the question. Yeah. Yeah, thanks everyone who's writing to us with your questions. It sounds like there's lots of questions around the vaccine, and I think it's really great that to have a space where these questions can be raised. And yeah, we'll definitely get back to you. Yeah, and I know that there's been a lot of questions even when I'm in touch with people. Yeah, lots of questions around the vaccine. So yeah, we'll stay on standby as we wait for more questions to come in. And yeah, just to say, yeah, thanks to everyone for tuning in. I'm sure that you had probably a very long work day, and so it's really great that you're to have your participation tonight. And yeah, feel free to keep sending us your questions. I see someone typing. Yes. And yeah, thanks to both of you for joining us tonight. It's really great to have you here. So again, the number is 902-329-9595. And yes, if you have trouble finding us, there's a +1 before the 902-329-9595. And yeah, feel free to send a voice memo or a text through WhatsApp, and we will happily read your question or play your question if you would prefer. Okay. So if I get COVID after I receive my first shot, do I have to get a negative result test before I take the second shot? So,
Another good question for Dr. Haas, unless you know the answer, Steve.
Yes, my understanding is that, yeah, you should not have any symptoms of COVID-19 or have COVID-19 when you get your vaccine. In terms of being at your optimal health when you get the vaccine. So yeah, that would be my understanding. But yeah, I'm happy to share that with Dr. Haas and see what what his comments are in response to your question. Great. So yeah, maybe I think if we kind of start to wrap up in a few minutes, that I think would be good. We don't want to keep you all too long. And yeah, so feel free to send us your messages in the next few minutes. And yeah, we'll happily respond to them. And if we can't answer them, we'll get an answer for you and then follow up with you. And maybe, I don't know if we mentioned this, but Jess, what's the minimum wage in Nova Scotia?
$12.95. $12.95 is the minimum wage. Yeah.
And Jess, what happens if someone doesn't have a copy of their contract? Is there a way to know what the contract says?
So yes. So one of the important things is we found that everyone should have a copy of their contract, and we found that oftentimes the employer is not giving you back your contract. So if you would like a copy, you could write into Stacy and just ask for a copy, and she will send you one. And if you have any questions about the contract, you could also ask Stacy, and we will find people that that can answer your questions. Sometimes there might not be a straightforward answer, but other times there will be.
Thanks, Jess. And I see we have another question. Hi, Stacy. Good evening. Question about the COVID money. So here, the pay is for 40 hours, and they owe us for the other 20 hours, in which they said we came in the week that their fortnight ended, which was the Wednesday. And should tax be drawn for it? We came the Friday. So
Yeah.
I can repeat if that's helpful. Okay. Question about the COVID money. So here the pay is for 40 hours and owed us for the other 20 hours, in which they said we came in the week that their fortnight ended, which was the Wednesday. And should tax be drawn for it? And I see that they're writing something else.
Yeah. So yes, they can. The employer can still make the deductions because it's pay going to you, and you should be getting the other 20 hours with your next pay. That should be included with your next pay. But the standard deductions are taken off.
Thanks, Jess. And there's a little follow-up. So they gave us $518 and took tax, even utilities. After tax, we received $360. And they're typing a bit more. So,
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for this question. It's important question. All important questions. So we'll give a minute because I think
there might be a follow-up, but I can say we looked into this about the utilities because it seems on the one hand that you shouldn't have to pay utilities if you aren't in your residence. And when we looked at the contract, it seemed that it could be taken that you did have to pay, and there were other way of looking at it that you didn't. So this is something that is not it's not clear cut the way it's written in the contract. And if you have to pay while you're not there. But so there isn't a sort of black and white, just straight answer to that. This is something that probably at some time would need to be decided by somebody from the Labor Standards Board, like by a judge, to decide which way it is, because there's reasons for it and also reasons against it.
Thanks, Jess. And there's a follow-up. We were upset because utility was taken from it while we were in quarantine.
Yeah. And that's it. And we've had this question before, and we've looked into it, and there's not a clear-cut answer, because the employer can take the deductions when you start work, and then, but on the other hand, it doesn't seem fair because you're in quarantine, but they're still allowed to take those deductions. So, as I say, that would have to be something that would be argued over in court to decide the final answer.
Thanks, Jess. And another question of clarification. So did you say that the minimum wage is $12.95?
Said $12.95, yeah.
And is that for all types of work, Jessica?
That is the minimum. There is something in the contract. If you want to wait a minute, I can get it for you. Let's see. I'm just going to get my hands on a contract here.
Thanks, Jess.
Yeah. Let's see. What you have to be paid. Okay, this is what it says in your contract, okay? And Donardo, maybe you can help with this. So they have to pay you one of three different wages, okay? They have to pay you either the minimum, and they have to pay you the one that's the, okay, either the minimum wage, the wage for agricultural workers provided by law in the province territory in which you're employed. So that is minimum wage. Can you explain that, Bernard?
Jess, can you repeat the
Yeah,
here?
so there's, yeah, so this is about payment of wages.
Mhm.
And what rate does it have to be? And it has to be equal to one of the following, whichever is greater, okay? The
Mhm.
first one is the wage for agricultural workers provided by law in the province, which is basically minimum wage.
Okay. Okay. Um, I missed the question that was asked that prompted that response. What was the question, Stacey?
Yes, the question was just clarifying if the minimum wage is $12.95, and then I also asked if that applies in all types of work.
Okay. Okay. Well, as you said, that's the minimum wage as set out by the province, right? So 12.95 um, is the minimum wage, right? So,
So,
but yeah, go ahead.
so that's one way. The other way is the rate determined annually by ESDC. I always forget what that is. To
Yeah,
be
yeah,
to be the prevailing wage rate for the type of agricultural work being carried out by the worker. And I think that basically comes to the same of $12.95.
right, right.
Okay. But then
How
there's,
I get,
and then
I guess the question.
there's a third
Oh,
one
there's a
though.
third one. Okay, go ahead.
The rate being paid by the employer to regular seasonal workforce performing the same type of agricultural work.
Okay.
That's the kicker right there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. I guess the question that I would ask, just as a follow up, is how would workers know what Employment and Skills Development Canada ESDC, what their stance is on what's the applicable rate? How would they know about the province's minimum wage, and how would they know about these comparative um, like how would they know? How would they gain access to that information? Aside from coming to Stacey or yourself, how
Mm-hmm.
could they find that information for themselves? Because basically,
Mm-hmm.
what I'm hearing is that it's whichever is greater. Okay,
Yeah.
of the three options that you mentioned. Okay, so there is what the provincial minimum wage happens to be, what the federal government through ESDC says it's supposed to be, are comparable. I guess comparable other forms of migrant work, or what that. So I guess my question, and I don't know if this is questions that
It's you can find it online.
okay.
That's hard, but wages. You look at EDSC and then wages by agricultural commodity. So fruits and vegetables and processing and canning, if grown on the farm, is $12.95. You can find it online.
Okay.
But and minimum wage is $12.95. But the thing is, if somebody who is either a Canadian or a permanent resident who is working on the farm alongside of you, if they're getting and doing the same work, if they're getting more than $12.95, then you should be getting more than $12.95. And if that's the case, then you can get a hold of us and we can talk about what can be done. So if you know someone who's working beside you who's not a migrant worker, but is somebody who works on the farm all the time, let's say, but they're getting more money for the same work. If you ask them what they're getting and they tell you more, that's something that we can talk about.
Thanks a lot, Jess. Thanks, both of you. So, yeah, we are nearing the end of our time together tonight, but feel free to continue to send us your questions, and we will get back to you with the responses. And yeah, if we don't know, we'll look into it and we'll get back to you. Some of these things, as Jess said, are not clear, and they're things that we have to look into. And so, yes, just to mention that. And yes, happy to look into that. Happy to chat with you if you have questions. If there's something going on at your workplace and you think that it's wrong, that it's an injustice, yeah, let us know. Get in touch with us, and we're happy to chat with you about what some potential options are. And what we usually do is share information and oftentimes different options for what can be done. And then, yeah, it's your decision what you would like to do, and we support you in that. So that's as migrant support groups. That's what we do. So I have another question. Oh, what a sweet message. Thank you. I'll just read it. Good evening to you all. Excellent job you guys are doing. We all appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you all. Yeah, it's great connecting with you all, and thanks a lot for the work that you all do. It's really important. And yeah, I think in different ways, we always try to highlight that in the work that we do, that migrant workers are important part of our community. Oftentimes, yeah, engaged in essential work in, for example, the food system, and that yeah, it's just so important. And yeah, your rights should be respected. And yeah, as we all on paper have the same rights, but we know that for migrant workers, because you're tied to one employer, that makes it challenging sometimes to speak out without being fearful of what the consequences could be. But yeah, we're here as a support group. So yeah, if you have any concerns, questions, always feel free to reach out to us.
I just want to say thank you to all of you. Thank you for all the work you do.
Yeah, I want to echo the same sentiment, and also thank Stacy and Jess for the work that you folks do and continue to do. The people on the line are my country mates. I know their struggle, and I understand what they're giving up to come here, to provide us with a certain amount of comfort that they don't have at home, and they deserve to be treated fairly, and they deserve to have their rights protected. So I thank you, Stacy, and I thank you, Jessica, for doing that for my people. That's important. I know they appreciate it, because I appreciate it, because I have family members that are also migrant workers, and I know how isolating it can be to be away from your country and be in a new system and feel as if you have no support. And to know that they have the support, I know it's a big deal. And yeah, so thank you guys, and thank all of you for showing up and asking all these wonderful questions, and being so engaged. Right? Yeah, thank you.
And thank you, Donardo, for coming tonight.
Mhm. All right, everyone. So yeah, with that, we're gonna close. Just a reminder, feel free to be in touch with us at on WhatsApp at 902-329-9595. Feel free to give us a call or send us a message, and will be happy to chat with you. And yeah, we are planning to continue on with our series of workshops. We haven't determined our next one yet, but yeah, we definitely will continue to keep doing this. That's our plan. And yeah, tonight has been incredible, like with all the questions and the engagement. So yeah, thanks again. Just echoing what
Yeah,
you see.
and if you have any suggestions for workshops, if there's things that you want to know about, let Stacy know, and we can and with Donardo we can arrange for that. So yeah,
Mhm.
let us know.
Yes, exactly. Mhm. Okay, perfect. So yeah, good night, everyone, and we'll be in touch.